Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go up to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, September 18th, 2024, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan on the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we do get started, guys, to let you know that we do pride ourselves on being a news podcast, which means that we do research the most reputable sources with award-winning journalism. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, News Media, The Blaze, whatever extreme left or extreme right views are out there. We simply don't do that. We present you with just the facts. At the same time, guys, we do try to watch our language, but let's be honest, words fly. At the same time, there'll be things that might be shown tonight that might be too much of a graphic nature for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, how do we start this? Well, I guess we got to start with the elephant in the room, and no, I'm not talking about that guy, but talk about Trump first, because apparently somebody took pot shots at him again.
Hearing from former U.S. President Donald Trump about the apparent assassination attempt at his golf club in Florida. A suspect is under arrest after a Secret Service agent spotted a man with a rifle hiding in the bushes and fired shots. Well, here's Trump's account of what happened.
I was playing golf with some of my friends. It was on a Sunday morning and very peaceful, very beautiful weather. Everything was beautiful. It was a nice place to be. And all of a sudden we heard shots being fired in the air, and I guess probably 4 or 5. And it sounded like bullets, but what do I know about that? But Secret Service knew immediately it was bullets. And they grabbed me.
Driver, walk straight back!
Authorities caught up with the suspect, Ryan Wesley Routh, a short time later, thanks to the help of a witness. The moment of Routh's arrest caught on body cam video. You can see him with his hands up as officers quickly handcuff him and take him into custody. He appeared in court Monday and was charged with 2 federal gun-related crimes, and officials say additional charges are possible. The Secret Service says the suspect did not have a line of sight on Trump. And the Palm Beach County Sheriff says the suspect, quote, didn't even get close to getting a round off.
What seems to be...
Okay, so let's just address this. Somebody took another shot at Trump. Well, tried. I mean, there were shots. They've missed. And again, the question of what is actually going on with the Secret Service? What is going on with these attempts? Because I think the last time an attempt was made on the president's life was President Bush, and that was a shoe. 2.0, Bush 2.0, I should say. And that was a shoe. Aside from that, it's been a while since we've had any attempt on the president's life. Okay. All right. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Because a lot of people, myself included, we can't help but wonder here. What is it? Again, I know I said as a news podcast, we try to remain neutral. We try to remain Switzerland. But 2 attempts in less than 2 months. And I'm just going to come out and say it. There's no way I can fault the Secret Service here. I don't think I can fault the Secret Service. Number one, because, well, this feels staged. I know as a person who prides themselves on the integrity of delivering the news with nothing but facts for you to allow you to make up your own mind, I think we need to go ahead and say it. This is starting to go into stage territory. Because the reason why I say that is because look at Trump. Anytime something has happened, immediate donation emails, calls out, things of that nature, money gets raised, things get purchased off his website, money flows in. I can't help but wonder, and I say this all the time, I cannot help but wonder if any of these things, and we got to say the word. I think we have to say the word because it just needs to be said. It feels staged. It feels like sympathy, especially for the fact that Trump needs all the help he can get right now, especially when you think about it, especially with Laura Loomer, which we'll get into momentarily. But it just, when you think about the assassination attempts, you think about what's occurred and the fact that this is, he tries to blame Biden and Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. He tries to blame them for the rhetoric, but I'm like, what rhetoric? Because the only thing he can say is rhetoric is that you basically incited the mob that is currently acting right now, which is truth. Trump sat there and gave a speech on January 6th, which basically incited a mob to go down to the Capitol and stop an election count. You incited the mob, and now you're trying to cry foul that the mob is now turning on you. However, Ryan Ruth, the guy that they did actually arrest, had camped out in Mar-a-Lago in the golf course just to get his shot at Trump. And again, I hate to say this, but I think we need to stop blaming the Secret Service. I mean, the original director of Secret Service stepped down. The interim director stepped in. So now that there's another failure, now the interim director now stepped down. I mean, I don't think it's the Secret Service's fault. I think there is a problem there. And I think the problem needs to be looked at as far as how these individuals, and keep in mind, this is the Secret Service. For anybody who doesn't know, the Secret Service basically can investigate like the FBI. They have the right to shoot on sight when it comes to the president's life. At the same time, they cover anybody who's ever been around when the president enters your city, much less your state, especially your city. I'm in Nashville. Whenever the president's here in Nashville, airport is shut down. Airport is shut down. Major interstates are backed up. Major interstates are cordoned off just because they're removing every potential threat that could happen to the president. Is it an inconvenience whenever the president's here? Yeah, because now you got to figure out a whole new way of getting around. But that just goes to the level of what the Secret Service can do. Do I think it's a fault on them? I don't think it is. Because again, this feels staged. This feels staged for sympathy. And although this is speculation, you can't help but look at the evidence. I'm like, and for lack of better words, when is the last time you've seen two people actually miss a target that close? Again, I'm not wishing ill will on Trump. The Simpsons have done that. And they have yet to be wrong, by the way. But again, the whole idea of it looks staged. But beyond that, I think Trump has also bigger problems now because as he has allies, he must now distance himself from said allies.
Good Sunday morning. We are now just 51 days away from Election Day. And after the first debate this past week, the race is still incredibly close. Former President Trump's allies want him to spend these critical final days talking about the issues on voters' minds, the economy, healthcare, immigration, and focusing on the vice president's vulnerabilities. Instead, Mr. Trump spent most of the week falsely claiming that migrants are eating pets in a small town in Ohio, and defending his association with a far-right agitator who other Republicans have condemned. On Tuesday night, former President Trump and Vice President Harris faced off for what may have been the most important 90 minutes of the campaign.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. Clearly, he is having a very difficult time processing that.
I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else.
During the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you.
We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics.
Now, former President Trump doubled down on baseless claims he made on the debate stage that members of the Haitian population in Springfield, Ohio, are abusing pets. City officials say there is just no evidence of that.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
They take in the geese. You know where the geese are? In the park, in the lake. And even walking off with their pets. My dog's been taken.
This morning, Springfield is on edge after days of bomb threats that closed public schools, government buildings, and hospitals. Former President Trump also defended his association with far-right activist Laura Loomer, who traveled with him as he made multiple stops on Wednesday to mark the 23rd anniversary of the September 11th attacks. Just last year, Loomer posted a video on social media that called the 9/11 attacks an inside job. This week, she posted a racist tweet about Vice President Harris. Some Republicans are condemning her. North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis writing, quote, Laura Loomer is a crazy conspiracy theorist who regularly utters disgusting garbage intended to divide Republicans. Trump allies tell NBC News that there are real concerns about Loomer and Trump's relationship and worry Loomer could cost him votes in key battleground states. During a news conference on Friday, Mr. Trump downplayed his connection to Loomer, but did not disavow her statements.
What value do you feel that Laura Loomer brings to you? And has nobody told you about the conspiracy theories that she has promoted?
No, I don't know that much about it. No, I don't. I know she's a big fan of the campaign, but I really don't know.
What does she bring to you?
I would say that, well, she brings a spirit to us that a lot of people have. We have very spirited people.
Later, he posted on social media, Laura Loomer doesn't work for the campaign. She's a private citizen and longtime supporter. I disagree with the statements she made, but like the many millions of people who support me, she is tired of watching the radical left Marxists and fascists violently attack and smear me.
So what's crazy is you now have Laura Loomer, who again is a conspiracy theorist. Much like everybody else, Trump loves to bring up because they will back Trump, because they've seen how lucrative it is to back somebody with a cult that follows him. On the simple fact of the matter, this is the same woman that sat there and said some shootings were hoax. The fact that he did win the election, he did win 2016's election. So it is crazy that Trump would sit there and say, oh, she's a wonderful person, and then turn around and sit there and say, oh, well, she's just a very excitable person, but she has nothing to do with me. It is crazy to me that, for the simple fact of the matter is that Trump is allowed to have these people around him, especially in the sense that they can say certain things. Like, again, the whole thing that happened at the debate. Haitians are eating the dogs. They're eating your pets. Now, keep in mind in Springfield, which actually has a large Haitian immigrant population, things are a little bit testy now, only because one person saw it on a Facebook account, and yet Trump saw it because of Fox News saw it, and J.D. Vance, because he's basically Trump-like, decided to repeat it, has caused a lot of issues for that particular community.
Former President Trump's amplification during the debate of a baseless online claim that Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio are eating local pets has now led to a flood of threats in the city. Last night, organizers were forced to cancel a meeting at their Haitian community center. NBC's Maggie Vespa is in nearby Columbus, Ohio. Maggie, good morning.
Hey, Willie, good morning. Yeah, a slew of headlines coming out of Springfield. And actually the latest overnight, Wittenberg University in Springfield canceling all in-person activities on campus after administrators said they received an email threatening a potential shooting on campus, specifically targeting members of the Haitian community. And in the safety alert that went out overnight to students and staff, administrators referencing that local uptick in threats against area schools, government buildings, and hospitals. All of this since Tuesday's debate, when former President Trump on stage repeated that viral and local officials stress baseless claim that Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio are stealing and eating people's pets. And again, Springfield officials say that is patently false and there is no evidence or reports to support that claim. But nevertheless, the uptick in threats was enough last night to force members of the Haitian community to cancel what was supposed to be an in-person meeting at their community center, where people wanted to talk about how all of this has been impacting them. People telling us outside what was supposed to be the meeting that they've been getting threatening phone calls. Parents have been keeping their kids home from school. And then we heard this story.
I was talking to my friend like recently and said one of the Haitian guy got punched on his eye.
How does that sit with, like, how do you deal with that?
Actually, that's why we're here. We're trying to help with all these kind of things. Like, it's really, really, really bad here.
And so amid all of this, former President Trump and his running mate, J.D. Vance, have continued to make Springfield, Ohio, and this viral online conspiracy theory a staple on the campaign trail and online. But again, Springfield officials stress there is absolutely no evidence to support this online rumor, adding they've combed through records with Springfield police, the local sheriff's office, and Ohio wildlife officials. Willie.
So what's crazy is, and this isn't the first time Trump has done something like this, and I gotta stress this very heavily, that the simple fact of the matter is, for all those that don't remember before COVID, unfortunately when Trump was still president, when he sat there and insinuated, and again, he didn't say, he insinuated that those of Chinese Americans and those of Chinese descent may have been carriers because of the facility in China that may or may not have been the start of the COVID virus. And a lot of people don't, and you may or may not remember, we did cover stories to where that one little insinuation to multiple Chinese Americans getting attacked, saying, calling them carriers, fanatics calling them carriers, saying, you brought death upon us all. There was gruesome injuries. Thank God there was no murders, but it led to a congressional hearing to where the COVID-19 bill was put in place to prevent felony, to actually bring on felony charges for those who were attacked. It did not protect China. And again, I want to stress it very heavily because the COVID-19 anti-hate bill that was put in was not merely directed at Chinese Americans. It was for those that were simply being attacked. I just got to point that out because, again, that can be taken so many ways. But that's Trump. That's the second time Trump has insinuated something to where a large group of people were affected. Again, Haitians, nicest folks you can meet, and yet they have a large population, again, in Springfield, Ohio, where, again, one person, because it was, rumored on a Facebook post, that caught fire because, let's be honest, right-wing media does not do their due diligence and research, to where they're still perpetuating the lie. Even right now on Fox News or Newsmax or whatever entertaining network it is, I don't really like to call them news stations because they're not, are still perpetuating the lie. And again, why? Because all you're doing is really showing your ass. You're showing your ass when it comes to this thing. You're showing your ass that you definitely should not be president. You are showing us that instead of us looking at Biden going, man, you're a little bit too old to be president, whereas we're now looking at you and going, you definitely should not qualify to be president, regardless of your age. So again, it makes no sense to keep perpetuating the lie, which I give those ABC monitors credit for fact checking him on the spot. And speaking of Donald Trump and debating, because for all those outside of Newsmax who didn't pay attention, Madam Vice President wiped the floor with him. But again, when you see Hillary debate Trump and now you see Madam Vice President debate Trump, we've seen two very educated women go against a failed con artist. Well, Trump is pretty much saying, I don't want a rematch for now. I wonder why. Because he's saying in complete Trump fashion, he is saying, well, I don't want a second debate because I've won. I don't know which debate he was watching, but the debate that we saw said otherwise, for the simple fact of the matter, because Madam Vice President Harris sat there and showed compassion, intelligence, and even fact-checked him a little bit, right along with ABC moderators there. But Trump still believes he won. No, you pretty much got your ass handed to you. That's why you don't want another debate, because you cannot risk losing more votes. Although it is still crazy how many people out there would still vote in Trump after he lied about how Haitians are eating dogs, after he literally lied about winning the debate, was literally unprepared, tried to literally get Kamala to get in the mud with him, and she chose not to. At the same time, decided to call ABC fake news. which again, ABC had the right, before we get into the next story, ABC had the right moderator set up. No audience, two moderators, fact checking in real time, muting their mics. Now, I'm not saying Madam Vice President got them all right. There was a few that she kind of overstated or overstressed the truth on. But Trump had about at least 35, and that's just being generous on the lie, on the BS that he told during the debate. But yes, I can understand why you may not want a second debate, because again, at this point, you're going to pretty much hand the presidency off to the first woman to ever hold that office. Again, we hope. Okay, well, I tried to avoid it enough, but unfortunately, we cannot avoid it. Usually, I don't really talk about pop news here, but guys, this story, it's literally and figuratively has to be said, has to be talked about. Yes, it is graphic, viewer discretion and trigger warnings, all the above. But yeah, it seems Diddy done.
Diddy Combs arrested in Manhattan after a grand jury indictment. Our senior investigative correspondent, Aaron Katursky, is at the courthouse and has the latest. Good morning to you, Aaron.
Good morning, Robin. Sean Combs spent the night in federal custody after he was arrested on a 3-count federal indictment charging him with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, and prostitution. Federal prosecutors here said Combs abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. Hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs seen here just hours before his arrest in Manhattan last night, taking pictures with fans. Federal agents with Homeland Security investigations later taking him into custody at a hotel in Midtown following a nearly year-long investigation into human trafficking. Diddy's attorney says we are disappointed with the decision to pursue what we believe is an unjust prosecution. Diddy has been under criminal investigation since his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, accused him in a civil lawsuit of sexual and physical abuse. CNN obtained this disturbing hotel surveillance video from 2016, purportedly showing Combs attacking her, throwing her to the ground, kicking her, and trying to drag her away. The lawsuit was settled with no admission of wrongdoing, Combs issuing an apology video.
I mean, I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable.
10 more civil lawsuits followed Cassie's, alleging sexual assault, physical violence, and human trafficking. His accusers paint a dark picture of a sexual deviant who preyed on young women and men looking to make it in the industry, plied them with drugs and alcohol, and forced them into sex acts, all of which Combs has denied. The criminal investigation spilled into public view last March when HSI agents raided Diddy's homes in Los Angeles and Miami.
Stimulate your mind, strengthen your spirit.
He shot to fame in the 1990s, launching the label Bad Boy Records and the successful careers of Mary J. Blige, Usher, and Notorious B.I.G. Expanding his brand and empire into fashion, fragrances, and alcohol. But much of that is now gone as his legal challenges mounted. His lawyer calling Combs a music icon, self-made entrepreneur, loving family man, and proven philanthropist who has spent the last 30 years building an empire, adoring his children, and working to uplift the Black community. He is an imperfect person, but he is not a criminal. Diddy knew this was coming, George. His attorney said he came here to New York 2 weeks ago, anticipating the federal charges. George?
Well, on the diddler. There is no other look. There is no excuse here. Sean, like I said, we kind of saw this coming the moment Cassie, his former girlfriend Cassie turned over phones, text messages, things of that nature. The moment your ex turns over that amount of things to the FBI, it's only a matter of time. Now, for all those that don't know how serious this is, also was found at his home, and I know internet is undefeated and fast. You've probably seen a whole bunch of people already posting videos about it. What was found at his homes, besides narcotics, AR-15s, various other items, I'm not going to go into detail about because, again, that's just a little bit too graphic even for our podcast. However, nearly 1,000 bottles of baby oil. Fill in whatever joke you want to use. But no, again, Combs will have his day in court, but at this point, what a lot of people don't understand is and also if you don't know, what's the crazy part about this is the court that's investigating Combs right now is the highest court in New York, who only take on high profile cases. So if they're taking this on, and the evidence that they have, and if you haven't noticed, again, if you're on social media, several record execs are stepping down from their recording labels. I'm not saying that he won't be the only person going down, but when you hear racketeering and RICO charges, that means that Diddy is not going to be the only person who's literally going to be joining very soon. However, we'll follow that story as it goes along. But at this rate, Diddy might be saying take that might have a whole different meaning. Sorry, had to say it. Better than saying R. Kelly cellmate. Anyway, like I said, not to make light of that, because again, there are victims of human trafficking, there are victims of sexual abuse, there are victims of domestic violence, there are victims out there, and again, if you are experiencing that, there are areas, there are numbers that you can call, there's help out there for you, which I hope you do take advantage of. But at this point, with the evidence they have against Diddy, either he's definitely going to be doing prison time, but I don't think he's going to be the only one. But still, not to go into direct detail, the details of the case are really, really graphic to talk about, in which we won't do here. They are available online for you to see for yourself, but let's just say you thought Epstein was a predator. Jesus. That also being said, guys, we do want to transition back to school shootings because, again, they're not playing around with school shootings. Again, they're not playing around with threats. They're not playing around with pranks. And you don't believe me, one Florida sheriff has took it upon his hands to finally sit there and say enough is enough.
A stockpile of weapons was found in a Port Orange student's room. The sheriff says there were various airsoft-style rifles, pistols, fake ammunition, knives, and even swords. According to the arrest affidavit, the student also had a kill list with several names, and the paper even appeared to have stab marks. Monday morning, the 11-year-old was taken into custody. He allegedly threatened to shoot up Creekside or Silver Sands Middle, the school Mike Foster's kids went to.
Life is not a video game. Life is real. If you get hurt, you get hurt for real. I mean, that's it. And it sucks that they have no respect for life.
The tip came in through the Fortify app after the 11-year-old allegedly got on a group FaceTime call and showed all his friends his weapons. The guns look real, and at the time, the other students didn't know they were fake. The boy is now charged with a felony for making a written threat of a mass shooting.
It's really sad, but you don't know what's going on with the parents. You don't know what's going on with the people around him, and it's horrible. It's so sad.
When questioned by deputies, the suspect said it was all a joke, but the sheriff reminds students and parents these threats are disrupting school and consuming law enforcement resources. Any student who makes a threat will face serious consequences. Parents will also be held accountable. Reporting in Port.
Which again, because again, this is the aftermath. I mean, we just had a story here in Nashville where a woman whose daughter was being bullied, but decided to take it upon her hands to literally bring a gun to the situation. She's now going to be facing charges. They're not playing about this no more, and rightly so, because again, we've seen the Georgia shootings. It's been 12 years since the Sandy Hook shooting, and again, folks are fed up. So what's going to happen now? Now the punishments are going to rack up. Now, in this case, if you decide that whether you're a prank or whether you're for real, if you're found out, the book's going to be thrown at you. And you can't complain. And we won't complain either. Just because the fact of the matter, it's the whole idea of safety. Kids want to go to school to learn. They don't want to have to worry about whether or not I'm going to get shot in school. That's the big thing. But I'm not going to feel sorry for that kid because it was all a joke. Well, now you're about to find out what it means to be a felon. Right along with Trump. But I digress. Again, this is the aftermath of just honestly, law enforcement and parents are just fed up with school shootings. However, I do wonder where the parents of that child were, because again, much like the Georgia shooter, that dad literally gave his son a gun for Christmas. I can only imagine how that kid got to. I mean, I can only imagine that kid's parents as far as their mindset for him, because they'll probably sit there and say, well, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't mean anything by it. Really? Tell that to other parents whose kids thought the same thing when their little bundle of joy decided to go shoot up a school. Yeah, I thought so. Moving right along, guys, I wanted to cover this part because, again, Trump and his Georgia case is being pushed back because reasons. At the same time, new charges are definitely being filed.
In the alleged hack of the Trump campaign. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so back in August, so last month, there was a hack of the Trump campaign emails. So officials, senior officials on the Trump campaign, one of whom we reported was Susie Wiles, one of the co-chairs of the campaign. Their emails were hacked and allegedly hacked by the Iranians. The Iranians gained access to information, including vetting documents that the campaign was using to vet Trump's potential VP nominees. So that was vetting documents of Rubio, Doug Burgum, and of course, J.D. Vance. Now we know, at least according to our sources, that charges are expected to be filed in the coming days. We don't know who will be involved in those charges, but I do know from speaking to sources that the Trump campaign was made aware that charges will be coming as soon as next week.
And the Fulton County judge overseeing Trump's Georgia election interference case tossed out 3 more counts in that indictment. So Trump's now facing 8 counts instead of the original 13. What more can you tell us about those charges and what comes next?
Yeah, so in terms of what comes next, we're essentially where we were before this. Of course, all these motions to dismiss have been filed. The judge will continue to rule on certain aspects of this. But in terms of the next steps here, we know that it's on hold pending various different appeals, the cases at least. But oral arguments in the appeal are currently scheduled for December 5th. Of course, that's a month after the presidential election. That will be the next big deadline in the case that you'll see.
So for all those that are wondering, basically what's going on is that there may have been an issue to where there was actually a security breach, and it was on the fault of the Trump organization. Even so, DA Fani Willis is chomping at the bit. For all those that don't remember, the Georgia case is where basically he decided to call the Georgia Secretary of State and ask for 11,500 plus votes in order to actually win the state. Nothing screams election interference like asking the state representative to find more votes. At the same time, guys, this is the same state to where DA prosecutor Fani Willis was all ready to prosecute Trump. Trump accused her of having an illicit relationship. That itself became a trial to where Fani Willis basically whooped the prosecutor's ass from the witness stand, ergo leading to her lead prosecutor actually leaving the case and her staying on it. Then they tried to extend it because they really just want to get rid of Willis, but Willis isn't going anywhere. In fact, Willis and her team are chomping at the bit to prosecute Trump. Now, keep in mind, this is probably going to be the one case outside of his FBI documents case that could completely derail him from the presidency, because this could be seen as treason. Now, does that mean that we're going to see this case? We'll see this case at the election, because again, Trump has made to the point to where he has pushed back, to where he has literally pushed back basically the hammer. I mean, we know it's coming. He is going to be eventually facing a trial. But when it comes down to it, he's going to beat the clock as best he can. Why? Because he still gets money from his flock to keep paying his lawyers to keep pushing back cases, because he still thinks he has a shot at winning the presidency. Go figure. But moving right along, guys, I want to cover this news as well before we get to the Boeing strike. Sam's Club, a nice little place to shop in bulk, will raise its pay to catch up with Costco. Keep in mind, guys, Costco just announced last week that they will basically be raising their minimum wages to $16 an hour. Sam's Club, not to be outdone, decided to do the same thing, raising their minimum wage to $16 an hour starting in November. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because it needs to happen. For the simple fact of the matter is, Costco is basically paying their attendants really anywhere from $16 to up to $24 an hour, if memory serves right. Sam's Club is going to do the same thing. Why? Because again, I cannot stress this enough when I say this. People really want to work. People want to work one job to where it covers their house, covers food, covers utilities, covers some luxuries every now and then. But people just want to work one job. Now, don't get me wrong, if you want to hustle and get your side gigs on, more power to you. But for a lot of individuals, they just simply want to work one job. And at the same time, if companies are not paying a living wage, well, guess what workers are going to do? Workers are going to go wherever the money is. And if the money's good, they'll go. There's no such thing as corporation loyalty, as there shouldn't. Corporations will cut you the next day and then rehire somebody else with less pay in your place. Of course, you should do what's best for you. So, it's not a surprise that Sam's Club is doing that. That's self-preservation, because they know if there's a Costco in their area and they're hiring, they could lose their workers, simply put, because they were being cheap. But, they have no problem paying their executives. Just saying. But speaking of a company who's going to have a lot of issues, Boeing, which we thought was going to have a done deal, concerned that the union, the Teamster union and Boeing almost reached an agreement until the people in the union pretty much sat there and said, F you, Boeing, we're going on strike.
Of America's largest companies suffering yet another blow that could have global ramifications. 33,000 workers walking off the job at Boeing, union workers demanding better pay. Production of new planes already being affected. It's just the latest in a growing list of setbacks for the company. ABC's Alex Perez reporting from Washington State.
Tonight, new concerns about possible ripple effects to the U.S. economy after more than 30,000 workers walked off the job at the embattled jet maker Boeing, America's single largest exporter. The machinists, a fifth of Boeing's workforce, mostly in the Seattle and Portland areas, on strike after rejecting a deal that included a 25% pay raise over 4 years, far less than the 40% the union wanted. Workers also demanding a return to pension plans.
Everybody's upset. They didn't come up with a good package that helped the senior people for retirement.
Dave Hendrickson, a 14-year Boeing employee, says workers deserve more.
So how long are you willing to strike? As long as it takes.
Tonight, production of Boeing's popular 737 MAX jet and its 777 grinding to a halt. The company now set to lose an estimated $108 million a day.
This strike could potentially impact 1.5 million people who work at other companies that supply parts and services to Boeing. So this is a very big deal.
It's the first strike at Boeing in 16 years and comes after a turbulent few years for the company. 2 fatal 737 MAX crashes, a door plug falling off a passenger jet mid-flight, and a problem-plagued Starliner spacecraft that NASA did not believe was safe enough to bring 2 astronauts home. Tonight, Boeing's CFO says they're ready to keep negotiating.
We want to get back to the table, and we want to reach an agreement that's good for our people.
And with both sides eager to negotiate, but it remains unclear when they will return to the table. Experts do not believe the traveling public will be impacted by this strike anytime soon. See, we say that. We say it's not going to be impacted, but let's also be honest. Boeing, outside of Lockheed Martin and maybe one other company, manufactures the world's airplanes. And these not just commercial airplanes, but also military, because Boeing also has military contracts. And your 33,000 workers just halted your most popular airline. Yeah, you might want to be a little bit concerned. That is all I'm saying. However, I keep saying this, and I will continue to say this. Whenever we cover a strike here on How the Frack We Got Here, we say the same thing. Workers always want things. Better pay, better conditions, more piece of the pie and profit sharing and bonuses. Every strike has always been around those same things. And I always say it best. It amazes me that $1 billion company would rather be stingy or greedy than actually pay its people a living wage, bonuses, perks, things of that nature, only because they believe in the fact that, it's capitalism. Well, you agree to this, then you should be able to live off this. No. I think that, if a company thrives, shows its employees. And, it'll be interesting to see what Madam Vice President does, because as she is trying to tackle those things in her candidacy, in policies, which, by the way, have been very progressive, I'll be curious to see what she does with this. But at the same time,
Boeing's got an issue. Not only do you have two planes that were under heavily scrutiny, the FAA is almost threatening to shut you down. And on top of that, you have a workers issue. I expect another Boeing CEO will probably be getting a golden parachute on their way out. Again, it amazes me that only as a CEO could you basically muck up a company, and on your way out, here's $70 to $85 million for your trouble. Only in America. But we'll keep up with the strike because again, unions do work. And I cannot stress this enough. If there's a union in your area, please join it. You work better as multiple voices than one person trying to negotiate with the company. Because trust me, the company will not listen to just one person. But the company has no problem, but the company has no choice but listen to everybody. Unions work. Simple and plain. But speaking of things that are probably going to be costing a little bit of a penny, the University of Tennessee at Knoxville is adding on a 10% fee for football games tickets next season to pay its players. Keep in mind, NIL deals are a thing now, and of course, college athletes, in my opinion, should be paid. So what the University of Tennessee is doing is saying, oh, well, instead of us just eating the cost for paying these players, we're going to ask our ongoing patrons to pay an increase in ticket prices. Now, keep in mind, guys, if you've never actually been to some of these college football games, ticket prices can be extremely high, depending on 1, where you're going, 2, where you're sitting, and 3, who the opponent is. It is amazing to me that instead of, colleges accepting the fact that times have changed, accepting the fact that college players should be paid because college football is a $1 billion business. It is. It is a $1 billion business with the B. College football actually brings in more money than all 3 major leagues combined. And that's college football. And yet these players out here who put their lives on the line and their bodies for 4 years, yeah, I don't blame them. Get your money. But it amazes me that colleges refuse to eat that cost because, well, they've been enjoying the profit sharing. It's kind of like a corporation and its workers, except now the workers can get paid whatever they want and colleges are scrambling. Not surprised, but then again, I'm Roll Tide. So let's see how long that lasts. Although the ticket prices are going to be going into effect next season, which means that expect some shocking numbers to pop up, if you will. But as we're getting close, guys, to wrapping up this podcast, 2 stories we want to cover because it amazes me. I say this before the election season that yes, Roe versus Wade was struck down. Yes, several states had abortion laws already in effect to be triggered once that was shut down. However, the Senate tried to push forward with IVF treatments. And it's funny that even idiotic felon Trump said that he's not against IVF treatments for those that are looking to actually have kids. The bill was on the floor, and it's now dead.
Joining us now, NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Sahil Kapoor. So what's happening on the floor right now?
Hey, Katie. Well, the bill is on track to fail, much as we expected it would. The gavel hasn't dropped yet, but Senate Republicans have already put up more than 41 votes, which is what they need to filibuster. In other words, it will not get the 60 votes that it needs to move forward. And this bill is called the Right to IVF Act. It would establish broad protections for IVF for individuals who seek to access it and for healthcare providers who seek to offer those treatments without interference or restrictions. It was brought up by Senator Tammy Duckworth, who used IVF to grow her own family, challenged Republicans that if they actually support this, they should vote for the bill. Republicans argue that this was a politically motivated show vote, that it's not necessary, that IVF is not illegal anywhere. Democrats came back and said, well, it could be if states decide that life begins at conception and treat, fertilized eggs, embryos as children and effectively give them personhood rights, given that discarded embryos happen in IVF. So that's the debate right now. This bill is not going anywhere at the moment. The only 2 Republicans who are voting for it at this moment are Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. It's playing out very much like it did a few months ago.
And it needs to get to 60 votes. This is not a 50-50 vote. This is a 60 vote for threshold.
That's correct. It needs to get 60 votes to move forward. And I just spoke to Senator Tammy Duckworth about the path forward. She said the way this bill can pass is if Democrats win the trifecta. If they win the presidency, the House, and the Senate this fall, they expected to get the votes in the House. And Tammy Duckworth told me that she believes Democrats would lift the filibuster, pierce the filibuster essentially to pass this with 50 votes. That's a bold prediction, but that's the only path this bill appears to have. I should add, Katie, that Republicans have a narrower bill of their own by Katie Britt and Ted Cruz that would cut off Medicaid funding for states that prohibit IVF. Republicans have insisted repeatedly that they support IVF. They're not opposed to it. They believe this bill goes too far. And of course, this all comes after a recent debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump where this issue came up. It flared up. Kamala Harris said that under Donald Trump's abortion ban, states can, enact restrictions that threaten IVF. Trump came back and called himself a leader in fertilization, a leader in IVF, insisted that he supports the procedure. But of course, the policy details, how it's actually protected, that is still a partisan fight between Democrats and Republicans.
Okay, so long story short, Republicans are full of shit. They are. It is amazing to me that Republicans really do see women, and I'll say this again, and I've yet to be called out on this. Republicans see women as broodmares. Handmaid's Tale, they see that as an actual way of life. They don't think, forget the fact that they don't think a woman's body is hers, because here on How the Frack We Got Here, we are definitely pro-choice. What a woman does with her body is her business and her business alone. A group of old white men cannot sit there and tell a woman what she can do with her body, because again, if men were on that same scrutiny, there would be riots everywhere. But it is amazing to me that Republicans are sitting there saying, well, we're not against IVF treatments. We're not against parents, because that's what was an abortion. Abortion did for a long time cover, blanket IVF, which a lot of IVF facilities were like, well, we're not going to go to jail because you want to get pregnant. Sorry. So now the Dems called them out on it. It's like, oh, you do support IVF. Okay, let's go ahead and push this bill through and codify IVF treatment so they can go ahead and do it. Passes the House, fails on the Senate floor. Why? Because every Republican voted against it. But it's amazing how every Republican will vote against it, even though in plain English, it is protecting IVF to allow potential parents to try to sire children that way. And Republicans blocked it. So tell us again how Republicans are pro-life. You are not. You're pro-birth. But the fact that anytime a Democrat does submit something, it's almost a knee-jerk reaction for Republicans to reject it. Don't believe me? Check healthcare, check immigration reform, check the VA, check overhaul on progressiveness, on progressive issues, check universal basic income. Anything a Democrat has submitted on behalf of the nation, a Republican has rejected it. Well, most Republicans have rejected it. IVF is no different because it's symbolic. It's really just saying, Republicans are pretty much saying, if you're not old, you're not white, and you're not a guy, we're not here for you. Which amazes me that there are women who are Republicans and there's such thing as a black Republican, which to me sounds like an oxymoron, but I digress. It is going to, like I said before, whenever there's a lame duck session, which means that one party controls the House, one party controls the Senate, nothing barely gets done. Unfortunately, the only way a change is actually going to happen for our country is that one party is going to have control of both ends to ensure that laws are passed. You have to have the House as well as the Senate. If Madam Vice President Kamala Harris does win, does she get those things? Hard to say. But we would be remiss there and think that just because she's president, that's it. We said the same thing about Barack Obama. And what happened? You had an entire House and Senate of old, angry white men against you. And he actually didn't break even until a second term when he actually got the help he needed. Hopefully, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris will fare better, but still, she's got to beat Trump first. But speaking of Madam Vice President, as we get to our last bit of news before we get to our feel good segment, guys, Sandy Hook was nearly 12 years ago. Those, and as you can see in the picture right there with Madam Vice President, are some of those kids now who are just turning 18 and becoming potential voters, who are going to be voting in this year's election. Now think about that. Sandy Hook, another school shooting which captured the nation, where well over 12 plus people lost their lives.
And yet the survivors here are talking about how they're voting. And I cannot stress enough that in order for some things to actually change, that we really should be looking at history. We don't want to repeat history. We need to be doing it differently. Because I can already tell with these kids who are now turning 18, they're not going to sit there and just take it as it is. I mean, I keep on saying voting matters, and that as the years go on, the voting dichotomy does change. The paradigms do shift. And hopefully, as you're watching or listening to this, you'll be inspired to vote as well. Because again, as I say so many times at the end of the show, if voting wasn't important, they would not be trying to move the goalpost to make sure you couldn't do it. But we're going to go ahead and move on to our feel-good segment, because usually how the Frack We Got Here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes I make usually fake me Mandy, but hey, it's Wednesday, it's hump day, tomorrow's Friday Eve, which is Thursday. And we always want to leave you guys out some good vibrations with people who impact other people's lives. And this, this tennis coach definitely got a surprise of her own on Good Morning America. Check it out.
We cannot get enough. We're entering day 11, kicking off the highly anticipated semifinals and serving up some massive excitement, honoring the champions and the tennis history that makes this tournament so special. USTA coach Frances Ferdinand is with us live. Hi, Frances.
Hi.
We're so happy that you're with us today.
I'm happy to be here.
So coaches, you're a coach.
Yes.
Such an integral part of the game. Yes. You teach skills as well as a love of the sport to kids in Brooklyn.
Yes.
I want to ask you, how do you think playing tennis empowers these kids?
I think it gives kids opportunities. For me, tennis has given me so many opportunities to get scholarships, opportunities to see the world, opportunity to have great experiences like this. So I think that's the biggest thing is when you have, those good skills, then you can get a lot of opportunities.
Because you got a tennis scholarship,
yes,
didn't you? Yeah, that's awesome.
I got to Morgan State.
Oh, way to go. I know. Why to you? Accessibility to the sport is so important.
Yeah, I mean, tennis is expensive. We all know that. It's expensive. It's already looked at as an elitist sport. So to be able to give people opportunity to play and not just have an experience, but to really learn the game and to really be able to excel in the game, I think, that takes a lot of money, a lot of energy, a lot of effort. So if we can create ways that they can do that easily or more affordable, then yeah.
Because there's so many life skills that we learn.
Tennis.
So tennis does. It teaches life and, and it keeps your brain. There's all these stats about living longer. Those who play tennis live longer than others. So it's all goodness. So in the spirit of competition, because it is that time of year, US Open, we're going to test your knowledge. Frances, we hope you're ready. A little trivia game that we've titled Match Point. Every question you get correct, we want you to reach into the basket. You get to pick any item you want there of Ralph Lauren US Open polo merchandise.
Whoa.
You got to put it on.
Yeah.
You're going to be layered up. Are you ready?
I think so. I'm good.
All right. The first question. What are the 4 Grand Slam tournaments in the order that they are played?
Okay. We have Australian, we have French, we have Wimbledon, and we have US Open.
Oh, that was a gimme.
I got to get something. Let's go.
That was a softball.
Yeah.
Softball.
We start easy.
Okay.
I love it.
What year did Arthur Ashe win his first US Open men's title?
Oh, that's a tough one. And it's on the cups. I get the honeydews every year, so I should know this.
Come on with the first one.
The first one, I want to say 1968. Wow! What am I getting?
You're playing with us. Okay.
I like it. Name the woman who has won the most U.S. Open titles.
If it's not Serena Williams, I don't know. I want to get the.
Well, it is Serena Williams. It's also Chrissy.
And Chrissy Everett, too.
Oh, yes. Is it 25?
Pick an item.
Come on.
Well, that may come in handy because what's the official drink of the U.S. Open?
The honeydews.
Complete with those little tennis balls.
Okay. So the little.
Oh, wonderful.
Right. For an extra point, an extra piece of merch, who do you think will win this year's Open, men or women?
Oh, that's a tough one.
You can pick one. You can give us 2 predictions. There's no wrong answer. This is your opinion.
I mean, I don't know. It's tough, right? We got all the new guys. They're looking pretty good. We're going for the Americans, the Fantastic Four. But I like Djokovic. I don't know.
No, he's out.
I know. But I'm just saying, I like him still.
Let's go with an American.
Okay, we'll go with Shelton.
He's out.
Are they really?
It's Tiafoe. Or it's Fritz.
I'm going with Tiafa.
Okay. All right, there we go.
We share the same name.
There we go.
Am I allowed to take stuff too?
Yes, of course. Why not? Why not? Everybody wins. All right, so Coach, you aced our match point game. Not only are you going home with everything you have on, and why not? Just take the basket.
Yeah, right.
But it might come in handy because we are sending you and one guest to the women's final.
Come on! Here you go!
As a little thank you for all you do.
Okay, we can't. Come on now. We can't just do that. How would you like to go to the men's final as well? Someday, so you got both.
So I can see Tiafa.
Yes, you can see them both. Yes.
You will not see Djokovic, but you might see Tiafa.
No.
You guys, thank you. Thank you for all you do for the kids in Brooklyn. Thank you for your love of the game. Thank you for your energy tonight. Enjoy the finals.
Yes, and the swag bag.
And the swag bag. Thanks, Polo. The action continues today with the women's semifinals.
I'll be there.
Yeah,
and Michael too. And Michael
will. I know. I love it. I'm jealous. As Americans, Emma Navarro and Jessica Pegula take on Arina Sabalenka and Karolina Muchova.
You got that.
Yeah, she's the.
So that's great. I always love to see. I love to see when people do great things. They actually, get their flowers, get rewards, things of that nature. And again, it always makes me feel good. Like I said, I clap and applaud for others until it's my turn. But until then, I grind. I dig it. But that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. I thank you all for liking, for watching, for letting people know this is live. I certainly appreciate that. Again, I always say like, share, and follow. As my friend the Reverend would say, a like, a share, and a follow costs nothing but means everything. So definitely like, share, and follow this podcast. I cannot stress this enough. Follow me, Black_Spartan615 on the socials. Happy to talk to anybody about not just current events, things of that nature. Just don't make it weird. I don't want that to block you. The link at the bottom, guys, will make that a little bit bigger for you guys to see. If you copy and paste that link into your browser, taking my link tree, that's YouTube, Facebook groups for all of our podcasts. Also, the podcast for How the Frack We Got Here can be seen or heard wherever you get your podcast from, including Apple Music, because, we made it there. At the same time, guys, I do need to heavily stress two things. First and foremost, vote.org. I cannot say this enough about what's going on with our current political season. As you can see there, guys, we are 47 days, 5 hours, and less than 10 minutes away from voting on November 5th. If you have not registered to vote, this website will help you out tremendously. You can check your registration. You can even register to vote. It takes less than 2 minutes to register. Actually, almost a minute from a friend of mine that actually registered to vote. You can even vote by mail, or if early voting is there, see who's on your ballots, election reminders, pledge to register. Pretty much, guys, this site will help you with all your voting questions. And I stress this very heavily. Please please do not wait until November 5th to check everything. Please, guys, we have a couple months. We have time. You have a website, we have technology, we have smart devices. Please do not wait until November 5th to check everything. Be prepared. Be aware, be vigilant, help others, because again, voting is important. People have died for your right to vote. People have fought for your right to vote. And right now, voting is probably going to be the only thing that keeps us from having an Act 2 of Trump. I know I'm supposed to be impartial on this, but I got to say it. You don't want to see an Act 2 of Trump. You really don't. But vote.org, I heavily recommend to try that. I recommend to go to that site for all your voting needs. Also, blurrstation.com. I cannot stop stressing enough about this. This is the site, the table, the vehicle to where the content that we own can be for us and profitable for us. I know Tubi's out there. I know Amazon Prime and all the other places are out there. Our viewership fuels them because Tubi was nothing. Tubi was a nothing network. Now it's well over $100 million, and it's owned by the same guy who owns Fox. That alone tells you everything you want to know. Our viewership can build our own bridges, build our own networks, but first we must invest in our table. And Blur Station, and blurrstation.com is definitely it. Definitely go to blurrstation.com. If you do want to join, please the Join Now button. And from there, select the Blur's Eye View Affinity membership. And if you find my name under the Affinity Influence Partner at Black Spartan, I would definitely appreciate that. As you can see, guys, it's $10.99 a month. $10.99 a month to view Blur Station. After 36 months of paying $10.99 a month, you do have the ability to own a piece of Blur Station. You can actually own a piece of a media conglomerate. That's a beautiful thing. At the same time, guys, if you have content that you would love to have on Blur Station, you first must join Blur Station. It allows you to talk to people behind the curtain. And from there, if everything's agreed upon, then your content can also be shown on Blur Station that you own. Blur Station would just own a piece of the distribution. But again, this is our vehicle. This is our table. The thing that we keep talking about the most, that we always said we wanted, is now here. Definitely check out blurstation.com. Outside of that, guys, again, the political landscape is out there. We got a mission. We have a duty to fulfill come this November. And until then, we will cover the latest stories. We will cover the latest news, and we will definitely do our mission statement, which is basically to inform you factually and allow you to make up your own mind. We don't want to persuade anybody. We want to let the facts do that because, again, facts are right whether you like them or not. Don't believe me? Ask Mitt Romney. That being said, guys, as we wrap this up about how the Frack We Here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the facts, like you make up your own mind, but we do provide a lot of perspective that goes along with it. We do better as a society once we're informed. We are progressive. We move forward. We try to right our wrongs by making decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first Black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman to federal board of governors, and very hopefully soon electing our first Black woman to be president of the United States. Hopefully. We don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go up at our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians to still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack We Got Here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and I promise we'll get through this. Peace.